So we're going to spend the next little bit of time talking about how we reward and punish our kids, why we do that, and whether or not it actually is giving us the results we think it is. So Michelle and I discussed it, and she came up with the title, Rewards and Punishments, Why Not? I added, why praising the good and punishing the bad today may cause more problems tomorrow. So I'm going to click through a few slides. We're going to talk about a few basics first, get into rewards and punishments, and then talk about what you can do instead of those things. So this isn't just about what you should not be doing. We'll also give you strategies that you can employ instead of rewarding and punishing. And then at the very end, I have a QR code that will come up, and that will link you. I can also put the link in the chat for the Zoom meeting. It will link you to a Google Doc that has a list of resources that I used for this talk, mostly online articles. So you can read those articles that I reference and some of the research that I talk about, and that will be on that resource list at the end. I think it's probably best if we start out with a quick definition of terms, just so we're all on the same page and you understand what I mean when I say things. I have a pretty specific definition of misbehavior. This is something I used in my home, in my dealings with my own children, and I carried it to the classroom, and I use it in the classroom and make sure that all of my parents in our program understand. I define misbehavior as hurting something, hurting someone, or being disrespectful. All other behavior is just behavior. It may be a behavior that we want to change, but it's not bad. It's not inherently wrong or bad. It doesn't mean we can't change it. We certainly can. The classic example that I use a lot with my parents is one day I had a kid in the block area who had 2 blocks and was pounding them together like cymbals. And a few of the kids nearby were going like this, and I wanted to do that too. It was very loud. And if I approached that as though the child was misbehaving, I would go in there and I would say things that would make him believe that he was bad and wrong and doing bad and wrong. But there's technically nothing wrong with banging the blocks together. I want that behavior to stop, but he's not breaking any rules. He's not hurting the blocks. He certainly cannot smash them hard enough to break them. That's not his intent to break them either. He just likes the sound. He's not hurting any people. It's just himself doing it. He's not being disrespectful. He's not calling names. He's not doing anything wrong. So the way we would approach a behavior can change on if we see it as bad or we see it as just a behavior we want to change. So if I use the word misbehavior, I'm talking about they're hurting something, they're destroying something, hurting something, gonna break something, they're hurting a person, they're kicking, they're hitting, they're biting, or they're being disrespectful. They're calling names, they are being willfully going against, if you've made it very clear what you want them to do, and their response is, I don't care, I'm going to do this anyway, then that's different. And we still will not use punishment and rewards for anything, but let's just be clear how we define misbehavior. So looking at most of what we want our kids to do and most of what we want our kids to stop doing are just regular old behaviors. They're just normal kid stuff, and we just want to change it. We just want to help mold them and help them learn how to behave in a more appropriate manner, a more acceptable manner, to pick up their toys at the end of the day, or how to put their shoes on the first time I ask them to, or whatever it is we want them to do. So most behavior is just regular behavior. When I use the word reward, I mean things like verbal praise, saying good job, well done, bribes, using food as rewards or stickers, things like that, excessive affection, things that are rewards can look like telling them they'll get ice cream if they clean up all of their toys. That's really just a bribe. Ice cream and toys don't have anything to do with each other. So we're really just trying to bribe them into doing what we want, telling them that we'll buy them a toy or a candy bar if they behave when we go to Target. That's just a bribe. It's just using food or a treat as a reward for what should be just expected behavior. And the excessive affection, which looks more like giving them huge hugs and kisses and, oh my gosh, I love you so much. You did such a good job. I'm so proud of you, for something that you normally wouldn't have acted that way about. Because we do that because we feel like that motivates them to then do it again, because they want our love and they want our hugs and our kisses. And we think if we share that with them when they do the right thing, that they're going to want to keep doing the right thing. Really, the messages being sent through that are, my parent loves me more when I do the right thing, which isn't true, because we love them the same all the time. At the very best, that's what they think. At the very worst, what they think is they only love me when I do the right thing. When I use the word punishment, we're talking about things like excessive timeouts, spanking, withholding affection, and losing privileges. So like the opposite of you'll get ice cream if you pick up all your toys, those have nothing to do with each other, and that was a bribe. A threat would be, if you don't pick up all of your toys, then you get no devices tomorrow at all. Again, toys and watching TV or being on a device are not related to each other, and we've really just threatened our child to try and get them to do what we wanted them to do. So that's what we mean by rewards and punishments. You can probably think of some times when you've used both of those techniques. I can think of many times when I have used both of those techniques. It just happens. And sometimes we can't help it. And we don't even realize that we're doing it until after we've done it. In my particular case, this is how I was raised. I was raised on rewards and punishments. I was raised with spankings and with, the promise of ice cream if I picked up my toys or whatever it was. Like, that was common. So some of those things are my default, and I had to work really hard to come against those and put those aside and find better ways to deal with my kids and with the kids in my classroom, because now I have lots of children all at one time, and I don't want to give them all a candy bar at the end of the day because they cleaned up their toys. And, I don't want to follow through on that bribe, and I don't want to have to take away something from everyone because something didn't get done the way I wanted it to get done. I read this just today, right before we started. I read this online on a Facebook post. Actually, they clearly had screenshotted from Twitter, but so having worked in the neuroscience lab for 3 years, I'm at the point where I no longer believe that kids misbehave. Kids do as well as they can, given their current brain development and whether their physical and emotional needs are being met. It just made me think that was something to really think about. And I think most of the time that is true. It's important to note that when you're talking about humans, there are no absolutes. There's nothing that is the same for everyone. There's nothing that works for everyone. There are no absolutes in human beings. We're each very different. So to say that, kids don't misbehave, they just do what they can with the skills that they have is probably 99% true. Are there kids who purposefully do things that they know are wrong or hurtful? Of course. Yes, that happens. There are no absolutes. But think about your kid. Are they doing just as well as they can given their current brain development? Our kids are tiny. Our kids are babies. They've been on this planet, most of them, less than 5 years, less than 60 months. They've been here. They're tiny. They're just learning. So their brain development, while rapid, there's still a long way to go. And whether their physical and emotional needs are being met. And that's a whole different topic because we often feel like we are meeting all of their needs. We love them unconditionally. What more emotional needs can they possibly need? I tell them I love them. We don't need to love them. We need them to feel that they are loved, and that comes from them. So again, that's a whole separate topic for another time. But think about your own kid and just give yourself pause that maybe they're just doing the best they can given their current brain development and whether their physical and emotional needs are being met. So we're going to move on to why we shouldn't be using rewards and punishments. And then we'll get into what we can do instead. So why not use rewards and punishments? Why not? Because science. That's why. Because science. The study of the human brain is complicated, of course. As I just said, there are no absolutes when you're speaking about humans. It's ever evolving, it's multifaceted, we're always learning new things, and all of that is true. But we also can learn and do know some things that we can apply to a large swatch of human beings. There are things that we have learned through research and study that we can apply to most young children, to most situations. And so we're going to look at some of those studies and see what researchers have learned about the long-term effects of punishments and rewards. There's not really an argument over whether they work in the moment. If you punish a child, it has immediately stopped them from what they were doing. If you have pulled them out of the situation and put them in the corner, they have immediately stopped what you wanted them to stop doing. If you grab them and give them a swat on the bottom, they have stopped what you wanted them to stop doing. Even rewards, praise. Your kid makes it through Target and they get the toy. There's no argument that your continued reminder that they were going to get that toy, they're going to get that toy. If you remember, you'll get that toy if you just keep quiet, keep with me, don't run away, we have to get the shopping done, you'll get that toy. That it ended up working out for you in the end. So there's little argument that in the short term, they can gain results. Some kids are very motivated by sticker charts. And they want all of the stars or all of the smiley faces or whatever it is. That might motivate them in the short term. But we're not building humans for the short term, right? As parents and caregivers, we're in this for the long haul. We want to keep our eye on the prize of the responsible, caring, compassionate adults that we want them to become. We're not in it for the short-term gain. We're in it for long-term, who they turn out to be in the future. So we have to look at the long-term effects of what we're doing now to help us determine if that's what we should be doing or not. So what does the research show? Again, I'm going to give you this resource list at the very end, and some of the articles there's one I think is a Psychology Today article. There are Alfie Kohn articles. I'll talk about him again in a minute. They have the exact references to this research if you want to dig deeper into it. But as far as punishments go, research shows us that it's not effective over time. It's effective now, in the moment, because like I said, it stops whatever happened, whatever was happening. They've stopped doing that when you've enacted the punishment immediately. But they're not effective at changing behavior over time. In fact, it leads to increased aggression and increased deception skills, because it doesn't really stop them from doing bad things. It just teaches them how to do bad things in secret. So you don't know that they're doing those things because they don't want to get caught. That's all. It teaches what not to do instead of what to do. And it models a lack of empathy. It shows them that their feelings don't matter and that they're not valid, and that whatever was happening in the moment is irrelevant. You didn't do what I told you to do, and here is your punishment. So it really does show them not to consider others, but to only consider themselves, because you are only considering yourself and not considering the child in that moment. That's what it models. I'm going to do an awkward screen share thing here again. There's a TikTok. It's real quick. We'll watch it twice because he talks really fast. It's only 15 seconds. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment so I can bring that up and you'll be able to see it. As I awkwardly, again, try to navigate while I speak. His name is Chaz Lewis, and he is a pretty spunky early childhood educator. He has a great TikTok channel, also a great Facebook page. And he does a lot with parents, a lot of his focus is on making better choices, breaking generational curses, not doing what your parents did, learning from past mistakes and making better choices now. And he has a great little TikTok about punishments. Oh, hold on. You can hear it, but you can't see it. Sorry. I'm working on it. Share screen. Portion of screen. Okay. This is, again, the awkward part. Sorry. I'm going to widen it so you can see his whole face. So I'm going to try to widen it. Maybe I can't widen it. Oh, no. Okay, there we go. Okay. You can also see some other things. I'm sorry for all the weird stuff. Chaz Lewis. His name is over here in the corner. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. Listen, I'm going to let it play twice because it is short and he does talk really quickly. So, though the words are written right there, hopefully you can read the words on his screen. Okay, here we go. Maybe.
If a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to drive, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to behave, we punish. If a child doesn't know how to read, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to drive, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to behave, we punish.
The first time I saw that was really heavy. It felt really heavy to me when I saw that, thinking about the fact that it was true.
If a child doesn't know how to read, we teach.
Stop. Okay. That we so often go straight for punishing. And it's so sad, but so true, instead of trying to teach about behavior, about the behaviors that we want. Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen again. Dun, 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 while I work through getting to the right thing. Presenter view so you can see the screen. Okay. Cool. There we go. Okay. Now, on to rewards. What does research show us about rewards? The research has concluded that when there is no reward, then there is no change in behavior. Rewards only work when they're given. So when the reward is finished, when the chart is full and you think we've now learned a new habit or a new behavior and we move on, we revert back to the old way because we're no longer getting the reward. And that was what we wanted. It links fairness to getting the reward. That when we do good, we expect good in return. And if we don't get that good thing back, then it's not fair. Why would I do something good if I'm not going to get anything back? Don't we want humans who just do good? Who just do good? It also motivates toward the reward and not toward the behavior. So it's really motivating them just to get the reward, not to do what we want them to do. We want children who want to do the right thing. There have been multiple studies that have shown that children whose parents, got that mixed up, children whose parents use frequent rewards tend to be less generous than their peers. It seems to be the opposite of what we would think, that if we give, then our child would want to give, except we don't give freely. We only give when they do what we want them to do. We only give as a reward. And so they're not willing to give either, unless they get something back. And that doesn't really seem to be the attitude we would want to build in our communities or for our children's future. So the research is pretty clear that in the long term, punishments and rewards don't really work out for us. I'm going to check the chat right now. So hard to unlearn how I was parented and respond differently. Amen. It is so hard to learn differently. It's so hard. It's an everyday struggle. It's so hard. I agree. I feel you. And good on you for trying, for getting up every day and saying you're going to do better, whether it's better than was done to you or just better than you did yesterday. The fact that you are willing to get up and do better is doing better. Just that alone is better. Let's keep going. What we really want to do is inspire intrinsic motivation in our children. We want them to have it within themselves to do the right thing, instead of expecting external rewards or the fear of external punishments. Now, in the long term, from an adult perspective, extrinsic rewards can look like studying to get a good grade, taking the job that pays well, posting on social media for likes. Those are totally rewards. Exercising to win an award. Intrinsic reward is studying because you're fascinated by a topic, and the reward is you learn more about something you love. Taking a job that is fulfilling, and the reward is within yourself for doing what you love. Posting on social media to share an important message. Or exercising to get fit, to make yourself feel better, not for any other reason. This is what it looks like as an adult. And while some of those extrinsic things are good, studying to get a good grade is important, taking a job that pays well is fine, Posting on social media for likes is a red flag. Don't do that. That's, again, a whole other topic. Exercising to win a reward. Some of us need that motivation. I hate running. I hate working out. I don't go to the gym. I'm allergic to the gym. I break out in a sweat every time and it's awful. And maybe I need a little reward to do that. Maybe those things aren't horrible, but those intrinsic rewards are better. Good, better, and